While 299 people escape from the moon, one maintenance worker is left behind with only seconds before an asteroid storm reaches the base. He races after the final spacecraft in a lunar rover, shouting for the crew to stop, but the communication system has already failed. The rocket launches directly in front of him, and the man can do nothing except watch everyone disappear into space. Moments later, a massive asteroid fragment strikes Earth and covers the planet in fire and dust. In less than a minute, this ordinary worker loses his crew, his home, and possibly the entire human race. He now believes he is the last human being alive. The man's name is Dugu Yue. 8 years earlier, scientists discovered a giant asteroid leaving the orbit of Mars and moving directly toward Earth. They named it Pi. If Pi reached the planet, humanity would be destroyed. To prevent this, the United Nations created the Moon Shield project. Hundreds of workers were sent to build a permanent base on the moon, where they developed powerful missiles called cosmic strike hammers. These weapons would break Pi into smaller fragments, while the moon's gravity would pull most of the debris away from Earth. Dugu had trained as a flight dynamics engineer, but all the engineering positions were already filled when he applied. He accepted a maintenance job instead. The real reason he was willing to take any position was the base commander, Ma Langsing. Dugu fell in love with her the moment he saw her, but for 8 years he never found the courage to tell her. When the strike hammers are finally launched, the mission appears successful, but a solar storm pushes one missile away from its intended path. Part of Pi escapes the moon's gravity and begins falling toward the lunar base. Langsing orders an immediate evacuation. Everyone hears the warning except Dugu, who is wearing headphones while preparing a love letter for her. By the time Dugu realizes what is happening, the last spacecraft is already preparing to leave. He drives toward it at full speed, but he arrives too late. The crew believes everyone is boarded, and no one notices the empty seat reserved for him. Dugu survives the bombardment and returns to the damaged base. For 6 days, he calls Earth on every available channel, but receives no answer. The life support system still works, and the station contains enough food for 300 people. Physically, he can survive for years. Mentally, however, he is completely alone. Believing there is nothing left to live for, Dugu stops following rules. He eats whatever he wants, plays across the empty station, and enters Langsing's locked room. He creates an imaginary version of her and pretends they are finally spending time together. What Dugu does not know is that Earth was not completely destroyed. Langsing and many others survived inside underground shelters. They cannot speak to him, but the moon-based cameras are still transmitting. This means that while Dugu believes no one is left to see him, humanity is secretly watching everything he does. Life on Earth has become almost impossible. The asteroid impact has flooded enormous areas, filled the atmosphere with toxic dust, and blocked most of the sunlight. Survivors are forced to live underground with limited food, medicine, and electricity. As the months pass, many people begin losing the desire to rebuild. The leaders of the Moonshield project therefore decide to use Dugu as a symbol of hope. They announce that a brave astronaut sacrificed his seat during the evacuation and is now surviving alone on the moon. In reality, Dugu sacrificed nothing. He was simply forgotten. But Earth needs a hero, so his video feed is prepared for a worldwide broadcast. Since the audio connection is broken, a voice performer is hired to create heroic dialogue for him. The plan falls apart as soon as the live stream begins. Instead of finding Dugu performing some courageous task, the cameras show him arguing with a large red kangaroo. The animal is King Kong-roo, an aggressive research kangaroo that was also abandoned during the evacuation. Dugu first discovered him inside the food warehouse. He had believed the station belonged entirely to him, but King Kong-roo had already claimed the supplies. Every attempt to remove the animal ends with Dugu being punched, kicked, or thrown across the room. The control team tries to make the fight look inspirational, but the entire world can see that Dugu is terrified of the kangaroo. The broadcast becomes a comedy instead of heroic propaganda. Surprisingly, this works even better. People who had forgotten how to smile gather around screens to watch the two survivors fight over food and territory. Dugu tries traps, weapons, and even a homemade machine gun, but King Kong-roo defeats him every time. Slowly, their hostility begins to change. Dugu realizes the kangaroo is not an enemy. It is simply another frightened creature trapped far from home. The two start sharing the station and eventually become an unusual family. One day, while they are resting near the communication equipment, Dugu hears a weak voice hidden inside the static. For a few seconds, he believes Langsing is calling him. The signal immediately disappears, but it changes everything. If someone on Earth is alive, then Dugu no longer wants to spend the rest of his life on the moon. He decides to find his own way home. Old mission records reveal that an abandoned Apollo 18 spacecraft is still somewhere on the lunar surface. Its command module could carry Dugu to the Moon Palace station in orbit. From there, he could use an escape pod to reach Earth. Dugu locates the damaged spacecraft and begins rebuilding it. The people watching from Earth are shocked to discover that their foolish maintenance worker is actually a trained flight engineer. But the Apollo engine is completely destroyed. The only machine powerful enough to replace it is the first cosmic strike hammer prototype. Unfortunately, that prototype is stored at the ruined Lacus Perseverantiae base, thousands of kilometers away. Reaching it before lunar night begins should be impossible. Dugu studies the maps, prepares a solar-powered rover, and decides to attempt attempt the journey anyway. He wants King Kangaroo to remain safe at the station, but the kangaroo refuses to be left behind. Dugu's rover cannot store enough power for a normal round trip. One lunar day lasts about 14 days on Earth, and once the sun disappears, the vehicle will stop working. Instead of driving directly toward the ruined base, Dugu travels in the opposite direction. At first, everyone on Earth thinks he has become lost. Then the engineers understand his plan. Sunlight moves slowly across the moon's surface as the moon rotates. By driving west and continuing around the entire moon, Dugu can chase the daylight and extend his journey for weeks. He plans to drive for 20 hours every day, complete almost a full circle, collect the strike hammer, and return to the main base before sunset catches him. The journey covers nearly 12,000 kilometers. Dugu and King Kangaroo spend more than a month inside the rover. They cross empty plains, enormous craters, and regions still damaged by the asteroid storm. Dugu carefully calculates every kilometer and every hour of sunlight. King Kangaroo mostly creates new problems, but his presence keeps Dugu from losing his mind. After 31 exhausting days, they finally reach Lacus Perseverantiae. The abandoned station is buried beneath wreckage, but the strike hammer prototype is still intact. While Dugu examines the weapon, the kangaroo nearly activates it. Terrified that King Kangaroo might destroy both of them, Dugu locks him inside a separate trailer attached to the rover. With the prototype secured, they begin the final part of the journey. Dugu is confident they will return in time until he looks behind the rover and discovers the trailer has broken away. King Kangaroo is now stranded hundreds of kilometers behind him. Turning around will consume the remaining power and make it almost impossible to reach the station before darkness. Earth watches Dugu face a terrible choice. He can continue alone and save himself, or return for the only companion he has left. Dugu tries to convince himself that the kangaroo is responsible for its own situation, but after everything they survived together, he cannot abandon King Kangaroo the way the crew abandoned him. Dugu turns the rover around. He finds the kangaroo and brings him back, but the delay costs almost all their power. The rover finally stops only 55 kilometers from the station. Dugu's spacesuit cannot provide enough oxygen for him to walk that distance. The engineers on Earth send an unmanned lunar robot carrying a nuclear battery toward his route, but it fails to reach him in time. With darkness approaching, Dugu removes a large panel from the rover and turns it into a sled. He attaches it to King Kangaroo, knowing that the animal can move much faster in the moon's weak gravity. The kangaroo begins pulling him across the surface. They leap over gaps, race down steep slopes, and fly across a deep crater while millions of survivors watch. They reach the main base just before their oxygen and power are exhausted. Dugu has recovered the engine, but when he returns to the communications room, he discovers something devastating. The voice he heard earlier did not come from Earth. It was only interference created when King Kangaroo accidentally touched the damaged equipment. The hope that carried Dugu across the moon was based on a mistake. After discovering the truth about the false signal, Dugu loses the strength to continue. For almost 2 years, he has survived because he believed Langsing might still be waiting for him. Now he thinks he crossed the moon and rebuilt the spacecraft for nothing. He records a final message, leaves King Kangaroo behind, and walks onto the lunar surface, prepared to let his oxygen run out. On Earth, Langsing refuses to watch him die. By this time, Dugu's journey has made him the most important symbol of hope on the planet. People who once gave up have returned to work because they watched an ordinary man continue fighting. Langsing asks every surviving community to switch on every light they can control. Cities, shelters, ships, and isolated camps send their remaining electricity into the night. From the moon, the lights form a message across Earth's surface, telling Dugu that he is not alone. He stares at the planet and finally understands that humanity survived. Soon afterward, the repaired communication system allows him to speak directly with Langsing. Dugu learns that his life has been broadcast for more than a year. He also discovers that King Kangaroo has become even more popular than him. For the first time since the evacuation, Dugu can hear real human voices. Earth engineers begin guiding him as he combines the Apollo module with the Strike Hammer engine. The repairs are extremely difficult because the machines were built in completely different eras, but Dugu refuses to stop. Each day, he works under Langsing's instructions. During their conversations, he admits that she was the reason he accepted the maintenance position. Langsing then confesses that she saw him outside the evacuation ship but could not delay the launch. Dugu does not blame her. He understands that she made the decision necessary to save everyone on board. After 943 days on the moon, the improvised spacecraft is finally ready. Dugu and King Kangaroo climb inside. The new engine ignites, and the machine rises from the lunar surface. Against every expectation, they reach the Moon Palace station in orbit. Several escape pods remain there, and for the first time, Dugu is only one short flight away from Earth. But before he can leave, the control team discovers another disaster. When the original asteroid Pi was destroyed, one enormous fragment remained hidden among the debris. Repeat repeated collisions have changed its path, and the fragment, now called Pi Plus, is accelerating directly toward Earth. This impact will be even worse than the first one. The survivors living underground will not survive it. The only weapon powerful enough to destroy Pi Plus is the same strike hammer Dugu used as his replacement engine. The warhead cannot fly by itself. Someone must use the spacecraft to accelerate it toward the asteroid, release it at exactly the correct moment, and escape before the explosion. Langsing tries to hide the emergency from Dugu, but he overhears the discussion. The forgotten maintenance worker who once wanted only to return home is now the only person capable of saving it. Dugu sends King Kangaroo toward Earth in an escape pod and turns his spacecraft away from safety. After waiting nearly 3 years to go home, he begins flying directly toward the asteroid. Dugu's plan gives him only one chance. He must guide the strike hammer through the debris fields surrounding Earth, release it near Pi Plus, and retreat before the warhead detonates. If his timing is wrong, the asteroid will survive. If he gets too close, the explosion will kill him. At first, the flight proceeds normally. Then a piece of debris tears through the spacecraft. The vehicle begins spinning uncontrollably, the main engine breaks away, and Dugu loses the power needed to push the weapon toward its target. Calculations show that he will pass more than 1,000 kilometers from Pi Plus. Without an engine, the mission has failed. Langsing searches desperately for another solution, but Dugu already knows what he must do. He separates the strike hammer from the ruined spacecraft, leaves the cabin in his spacesuit, and attaches himself to the weapon. The small thrusters on his suit are not designed to move a missile, but they are the only source of power he has left. Dugu asks Langsing to restore the worldwide broadcast. He wants the people who followed his survival to know that they were the reason he kept going. Using the suit thrusters, Dugu slowly corrects the warhead's path. The distance closes, but there is no longer enough time for him to escape. Langsing realizes that the mission can only succeed if Dugu stays with the weapon until the end. She begs him to find another way, yet both of them understand there is none. This time, however, he is not afraid. He guides the strike hammer directly into the asteroid. The warhead detonates. Pi Plus breaks apart in a brilliant explosion, and the shockwave spreads across space. Dugu disappears with it, but the fragments miss Earth. Inside shelters around the world, people realize that the Moon Man has saved them. King Kangaroo reaches the planet safely. More than 10 years pass. The dust in Earth's atmosphere finally clears. Oceans stabilize, and sunlight returns. Humanity rebuilds cities, restores technology, and begins traveling into space again. Langsing eventually returns to the Moon with King Kangaroo. The base that once became Dugu's prison is active again. In the sky, the remains of Pi Plus have settled into orbit and formed a beautiful ring around Earth. Looking at the ring, Langsing imagines Dugu standing beside her, and with this, the story comes to an end. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Movier for more exciting movie recaps, and tell us in the comments, if you were in Dugu's place, would you sacrifice yourself to save Earth or escape?